Anyway, welcome to the third sketch, which is called the Handshake with Oblivion. Well, the task with this particular sketch was to, well, do two things. Firstly, to answer the adaptation question, the struggle. This deals with the struggle and the adaptation. So the struggle was, what were you struggling with? And then secondly, what were you doing to show others that you were struggling, and how did it feel? So that's how I came up with this particular sketch, which is still the continuation of the second sketch. If you look at it, the perspective, it's still the same. It's part of the first two sketches, and it's the outside, the reaching hand that we were talking about. Hari Buaka, the first sketch. Okay. Now, the most important thing about this is it's from the perspective of the person in the hand. We saw the person in the hand in the second sketch, okay, but we didn't really see much detail.
Yeah.
The first thing we start to see with this particular sketch is the absolute loss in color to this monotonous, just black and white, but detailed color. Approach. And then, secondly, this hand, it's veiny, struggling, but it's reaching out to nothing. Like we're in the perspective of right in between the hand and a sharp. We are looking forward and it's reaching out to nothing. But remember that's something we thought it was reaching out to was opportunities.
Yeah.
In the second sketch. The opportunities. So now you are struggling and you seem to be holding on to nothing.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Man, where do we even start with this one? Right off the bat, when I look at this thing, like you said, the detail, right? Previously, we talked about how there was that separation or that disconnect. Now, you start reaching or grasping at what you think might be there, but then, like you said, you come up with nothing. And even as, in the same way that you're trying to reach out for what it is you thought you were grabbing hold of, now you start reaching out for those people that you left back there and you can't grasp them. So ultimately you end up grasping at nothing. And like you said, the detailing for me now represents a time when you start to see yourself, kind of, where now there's nothing there for you to see or grasp, so you turn inwardly and you start to see little kinks about yourself, areas where you might be, things you didn't see about yourself before. You start to become more aware of yourself, and sometimes it's a scary thing, especially if you are in that period of struggle where when we're talking about transition, we were talking about how school was starting to be rough. This is the point where you're now like, hey, I'm going
it's
under.
winning.
Yeah.
Down bad.
And it's just like, how do I even start to communicate with people? They're not there. Where you feel alone, you feel you're struggling, really. And in the beginning, you started talking about like what we did to kind of show people we're struggling. I think at this point, personally, because I don't think I'd ever been in a situation like this, I didn't actually know what I'm supposed to do. And I was kind of caught in that cross between, okay, you're a top achiever, you're strong, look at you all the way out here all by yourself. You can do this. And also like, so I was kind of caught in that crossfire, not necessarily knowing what am I supposed to do. I've never had a situation like, am I really struggling that much? I mean, can't I really do it? I'm not gonna come out and be the weakling. What, me? No. So I think from that struggle, then you get into that kind of space of isolation where you're still trying to grasp and you're drowning, but you're coming up with nothing, but you don't actually know how to scream out and tell people, help me. Yeah.
And I feel like one thing that compounds to that is because you're in the psyche, or you grow up as an achiever, as an achieving student, and you're not really used to asking for help first and foremost, and secondly, you are always used to dealing with any problems head on.
That's
Or
true.
if you deal with problems, it means I haven't found a solution yet.
Yeah.
That's all it
It's
means.
coming.
So
Yeah.
even though you are struggling, and the solution probably that simple, and ke tse e leng gore if you had that support system, you could just easily get accessible and sustainable answers. You don't, because you don't have that anymore. But now I'm an achiever. This is about just conquering task. I'll get this. We sort of when year two, it's in the stress. I remember still thinking, no, get like kappa. What do you
Yes.
want? It's just a fail. Pura pura, it's a man now. When the kalela, can say guys, let's call a war. I'll get it. I'm smart. I have
Hey.
this under control.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you don't. And I remember Arbua about this last week. We talked about it's sort of symbolic of somebody who's drowning,
Yeah.
and they're reaching out for somebody to help, and
Yeah.
nobody actually comes to help.
Yeah.
And it's just there like, what is the fate of that person? What is the fate of that
Already
person?
goes, yeah.
Go already copy here. Like, you know my point. It's a handshake with oblivion. Like, it's a handshake with nothing. It's just
Yeah. On that point, it's, I think, the most important thing for me at this stage was really learning how to process my emotions, specifically emotions which I was not familiar with at all, which are either an unordinary amount of stress, uh, just sort of sprinklings of depression here and there that you don't really recognize because you're like,
sprinkling.
yeah, because it's there, but it's not really there. It's still early
Salt
days.
Bay
Yeah.
on your mental
It's
health.
just a little sprinkle of depression. It's like, yeah, it's there, but again, like you're saying, no,
Oh.
like I'll deal with it. It's a task. I can overcome it. It's like anything else. The difficulty was in coming to terms with those emotions and then figuring out if this is truly who you are or if you're becoming a sort of victim to the circumstance and the situation. Because there's a point where, at least for me, I realized that maybe or at least I started thinking that who I thought I was and who people have told me that I am is not necessarily the same person that I'm being perceived as in this setting. So who I thought I was when I was in Botswana and in my comfort zone and everything's going great versus the person that's in the UK. I don't think I've changed, but there's clearly a difference because I'm experiencing different things and my thinking's becoming different. And oh wow, I'm sad. Like, why? I'm not experiencing, at least I didn't think, I'm like, it's school. Why is this stressing me out as much? I've done school before. Why is it stressing me out? I'm not naturally a very talkative person, so the loneliness wasn't really a thing until I was taken away from everything. And I'm like, wow, I'm actually kind of lonely right now. I need to call someone and go do something, Not all the time, but sometimes you're like, I need to leave this house more. Whereas when I'm at home, like currently, I'll probably be in the house all the time. I don't want to go anywhere. But once the option's taken away from you, I think it starts weighing heavier on you because like, now I can't do it even if I want to. So again, I may have wanted to reach out at this point, but I didn't really feel like it was something I couldn't deal with yet. So I'd much rather, which is a terrible habit that I have, I'd much rather internalize it. Because again, I think I mentioned this when we spoke about this previously, about sort of having this sort of fascination with the new feelings and new emotions and really being obsessed with self, what's the term?
Self-awareness
Yeah,
and self-realization.
self-awareness and self-realization and self-introspection. That's what I'm looking for.
Allowing yourself to
Yeah,
actually feel.
exactly. I'm obsessed with that feeling and that idea. So at this point, I was just like, yeah, no, it's something I'll figure out. And I wanted, because it's new, I'm like, okay, let me see how deep this thing's gonna go before I go and stress my mother or someone else out with it. Let me see if it's anything I can deal with. So I wasn't really reaching out. At this point, I was probably still in the last phase. I'm just like, nah, I'm still cool, even though inside I'm like dying. I know I'm
Oh.
dying, but I'm like, it's a new emotion. But with anything else in my life, I should be able to overcome this. So forget about it. You know.
That's exactly what I feel like the reach is. You
Yeah.
feel like it's fine being hidden under I am absolutely not fine.
Yeah.
It's masquerading as I'm fine, but underneath what I feel like I am crumbling. I am breaking down from, like you said, from your ego, or this is who I thought I was, and then apparently it doesn't work in this setting.
Not at all.
Why doesn't it work? What have I done wrong? And now, to me, I feel like there was that voice that kept saying, or you are doing everything right. I felt like I was doing everything right, and things just weren't going exactly how I wanted them to go.
What is
And
it called? Not a stochastic process. Deterministic. No, feel like there's a formula to it.
exactly, I
Right
felt like
things
there's
in,
a
the right thing
yeah.
should come
I
out.
felt like
Yeah.
there was a method to the madness, and I was wondering why I was only getting the madness, and no results for the method.
Yeah.
I was hoping to get this, if I do 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
and somehow when everything started to connect, it wasn't connecting. And then we go back to you're struggling. This is the first time you're struggling over an extended period of time, and you don't know how to deal with it.
Exactly.
And even if you do ask for help, there were moments when we were asking for help, but they felt they were muted, they were subtle. Ke tshwaragane le bothata. People feel like, "Mona, you have the better hand of the stick. Hey, or you are near the wet well. Why are you
Hey.
crying? I'm the one who should be crying.
Yeah.
I'm in the dry well." And it's just there like, man, if you don't understand, I might not survive this, and we'll have 2 dry wells
Yeah.
and nothing to show for it at the end of the day. And I feel like that's what most students were going through. It's just, I'm struggling and there's no outlet.
Yeah. And how we are outlet earlier you mentioned also excessive what's accessible,
Yeah.
accessibility. I think at this stage we didn't really know what was accessible to us, what kind of help is there for us. And even if we went to your freshers orientations, there was so much information that was given to us, and you don't really pick out those you don't remember. By the time you're going through these things, you don't remember well-being. I can call them. They can advise. You don't think about things like that because you are bombarded with so much information in the first week, and you can't really keep track of it. Like you don't know what outlets there are. You don't know who you can actually call for help. You don't know what to do.
No,
Yeah.
true. It feels like you don't have resources.
Yeah.
Where, like, in actuality, ke feel like from the perspective of the educational attachees, they felt like you have counselors at school. But I felt like I personally went through the school counselors, and they were, I'd say my results were bittersweet in terms of their ability to help me. I felt like they were able to help me in some aspects, and they were completely off. They couldn't relate because the problems I was coming to them with, they were layered and compounded by things they couldn't understand in the first place. So layer by layer why I'm feeling this way, and you can't do that in an hour,
That's true.
or regardless of how frequent you actually go visit your counselor. The help just isn't enough. Even if it's there, it's not enough.
That's true. Do you think that having had a counselor like Motswana kind of understands maybe your cultural background would have been better?
I do. I remember last time I told you about something I heard from Mr. Exposer. Like, if you have a problem, if you have a problem with an Audi, you are gonna take it to an Audi dealership,
Yeah.
not a BMW
True.
dealership, just because it's closer.
Yeah.
And it's because you want somebody who truly understands your problem.
Parts,
Hey, good thing. Gape le wena o batla gore o nne certain about the advice e leng gore wa utlwa, because some of the advice e leng gore ne ke e bolelwa, I felt like it was just metsi mo sefeng. You get my point? Like,
it was the textbook stuff.
exactly, it was the
Yeah.
textbook stuff, and I was just there like, hey man, my syllabus is way more advanced than. But yeah, the struggle was a really, I think it's self-explanatory that we struggled, I guess.
Yeah.
And about this handshake with Oblivion, it's connected to something. It's connected to another issue we need to talk about. Here we're talking about the struggle. We were struggling to do this. Or what came off us out of this particular struggle. Stay in tune for the next sketch.